Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Adam Floater. I am chair of Ealing Green Party. With me, I have Mina. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Mina. I'm the one that's been talking so far. I'm also from Ealing Green Party. So we're hoping to do these quite regularly and get local people discussing local issues. So this is our first attempt. So fingers crossed for tonight. And thank you for joining us. So we've got 23 so far. So do you think we should start?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, Louise?
Yeah, okay. I'll try and keep an eye on the participants. I guess if you see, will you be able to see people in the waiting room?
I believe so.
Yeah, give me a shout if there's people waiting to come in. I'll pop them in. Okay. Have I got hosting role back?
Mina, I think you have hosting at the moment.
Sorry. There you go.
Great. Okay. Okay. I might lose my camera actually because I'm just going to be sitting here looking at slides, so I'm not going to be actually looking at anyone. Okay. Let me find. Oh, trying to present. Great. Okay. I'm assuming you can't see your faces at the bottom of my screen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking. Okay. So thank you to everyone for joining us. So we're going to do a bit of a presentation about Gurnell. I know a lot of people on the call, so a lot of people probably have know a lot of the details already. Please forgive any spelling mistakes or grammatical errors. We're kind of in the depths of doing our kind of planning application objection stuff at the moment, so we're running on not much energy or sleep, so hopefully these are all okay. So I'll just actually explain, so this view is actually kind of into the park at the moment, so you can actually see the leisure centre just on the right hand side there in the kind of horizon, and that's the view we have at the moment through the kind of open land that we'll be losing. Okay, so in terms of the talk today, so we're going to talk about kind of Gurnell and Longfield Meadow. So there's a whole kind of big site in question here. We'll look at the actual proposals, some of the environmental impacts, and also what everyone can do to help us out with this. So I'll just start here. So I don't know if can you see my pointer?
Yeah.
Yep, great, okay. Yeah. So this is kind of an aerial shot of the kind of whole site at the moment. So the whole application site actually runs all the ways, not the allotments, oh, sorry, I'm getting pop-ups come up, all the way across down here as well. So this is the actual leisure centre at the moment, the current BMX track. This is the car park down here. And then, so the Brent is running just through here. And then this is actually Longfield Meadow. Phil might correct me if I start getting these things wrong, but I think that top part there is Longfield Meadow, and that's Stockdove Way for those who know it. So this whole section is actually part of the Brent River Park, part of the Blue Ribbon Network, and this runs, I don't know the exact extent of how far this runs, but it runs certainly in this section all the way down to Warren Farm. And I guess that's one of the things the two of us have in common is this, you know, both part of the Brent River Park and part of the Metropolitan Open Land in Ealing at the moment. So I'll just move on. So this is the picture I said. So at the moment, Gurnell, the site here, so this is taken from inside the park, nice big open space at the moment. So designated Metropolitan Open Land. It's also designated community open space and public open space. It's got a couple of designations. So the kind of Gurnell site itself doesn't have any specific environmental designations, but Longfield Meadow does. So Longfield Meadow, the whole middle up there, is actually a site of importance for nature conservation. It's grade 1, so it's got borough-wide importance, and of the borough-wide ones, I think it's the highest grade there, basically. So that's a nice picture across the meadow. So those are the kind of two sites that are in question here. So this picture here gives you a nice idea. So I think this was the winner of the winter, I think it was either 2018 or 2019 photo competition. That's running one of the local newspapers. So this picture is taken actually from Stockdove Way in a winter morning, and it's quite relevant at some point later when we get through the presentation. Sorry, I keep getting people to admit. So you can see here, obviously, the nice nice view, and you've got a nice kind of sun streaming through the meadow here. So remember that when we get to a later point in the presentation. And here, just to kind of show that, so here's that whole meadow there. The entire meadow is site of importance for nature conservation, and just across the other side here, by the Brent, there's another site here, and actually going all the way down across into over Pithanger Park. So there's quite a lot of sites here that are very important. And it's just on the bottom here is where we're talking about the leisure centre development, and it's actually up here in the meadow that the BMX park will be proposed to go. Okay, so the plans. So it gets dramatic. So I'm sure quite a lot of people have seen, I think someone might be chopping in the background. If I could ask them to go on mute, if that's okay.
Oh, come on, this is so amateur.
I don't know who that is. Can we
unmute everyone, whoever is the host?
Oh, I'm the host.
Yeah, if you can mute Joan Scott.
Right, okay. Oh God, how do I get back out of here? Sorry, I'm not.
That's all right.
I'm not so afraid with this.
Alt tab.
Right, okay.
To
who was it?
Back.
Sorry.
Joan Scott.
Oh, okay. I think she's in mute now.
Okay, cool.
Is she? No, now she is. Right. Right. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, so I think quite a lot of people have probably seen a lot of these red block images around. I imagine most people have seen all these by now. So here's one of Gurnell. It looks very dramatic, and actually I think a lot of people think that this has been made up and we've made up the dimensions, but worryingly that's not actually the case. This is all based on planning application dimensions, which are quite concerning. So this view is kind of above like Avalon Road and Crossway, so it's facing kind of northwest. This view is from over Stockdove Way. So that is actually, so this meadow here, that's the meadow we were talking about, Longfield Meadow. So you can see kind of in the back here, that's the towers they keep like refer to, because there's some taller towers in the area that are 11 stories, but you can kind of see the big beasts here. So this right hand side is actually the leisure centre and the two towers attached. And the rest of them the residential, and you can see obviously we've got everything else plugged in, so you can see I think that one above and back there must be Percival House proposal, which is about to go in, and then the two here, that's Man Road and Hastings Road. So the right hand one is a bit shorter now, actually, but fatter. That one's gone in, and sorry, let's click back. So yeah, so there's quite a lot of development in the area, and actually I don't have a pan, but if I panned around to the left, you also would get Starvin Marvin's, which has just been popped on the A40, and also the one behind the Hoover building. So there's a lot of these around at the moment. This is also quite a good image actually to see. We'll get to an overhead view later, but in terms of the meadow and where the BMX is proposed to move to, I think if I'm right, it's probably where this kind of track is here. That's roughly one side of the site. It's going to take up pretty much half of this entire meadow here. So from this view, you can really see how big that's going to be. So, and that's just another view here. So this will be from above, I think, is it Hanwell Town FC that's over here. So that's Argyle Road. So this is just kind of view into the park. And again, it's looking slightly dramatic, but that's how big it's going to be. You'll see some of the developers' pictures in a bit, and they look all very pretty and not scary, but they're all based on the same sizes. Having said this, probably does look pretty scary. So this is their picture. And I think one of the things they say why these buildings and I think materiality is the word they use, okay, is because I think they've chosen a parkland palette. So whatever this means, so they're just going to disappear into the background, so it's all fine. So as you can see here on the left hand side, we have the leisure centre, and that's got 2 tower blocks attached up to 15 stories in those ones. And then we've got these other ones here kind of all the way going back up to 17 stories. And they'll say they've put this 17-story one at the back, so I guess it's not so oppressive for the road, but there's obviously a big knock-on impact because it means that one is the one that's closest to the park itself, or in the park. And it's worth saying actually that this entire site is Metropolitan Open Land. So there's, I think there are a lot in the applications, they quite a lot of the sites say that, you know, oh, it's on previous developed land because this section here or these towers are as a car park. But you know, it still carries a designation Metropolitan Open Land, and therefore shouldn't be built on. I'm not going to dwell on these ones too much, but I just thought it's worth just saying what they're building. Again, there'll be a lot of talk saying that actually these are all required, we need these houses, but the vast majority are going to be private market sale. So 400 units, who knows where they're going to be sold to. It's likely to be another Dickens Yard situation.
Sorry, Louise. One
Yeah.
second.
Who do I need to mute?
Elizabeth, can you mute your phone, please?
Yes, it's essential. James Waterhouse, BBC London.
Or Louise, if you are able, can you?
Yep.
Thank
Let
you.
me. Oh, I keep clicking in the
They're
wrong
all
place
done.
now.
All
Oh,
done.
thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so I just wanted to kind of make a point here just to let people know what they're building. So the whole right-hand side of the site is basically all housing that's going to go private market. So we could end up in quite easily another Dickens Yard situation where you've built all these towers and there's actually no one even living in them. And then the left-hand side above the leisure centre, there's some affordable rent and shared ownership, but it's worth saying there's absolutely no social housing in the development at all. The thing that's worth saying is that on public land, there should be 50% affordable housing, and there's only 34.5, I think the count is. And actually, the development itself isn't even paying for that affordable housing. So there's no kind of cross subsidy for that. That's coming from a GLA grant. So we hear quite a lot of say, you know, oh, well, this development, it's bringing some affordable housing. So again, that's not the case. And the other piece is around housing mix here as well. It's not, you know, again, it's studios and 1 and 2 beds, and there's barely any family units in there. And to be honest, I've looked at some of the floor plans, and the family units, you know, meant to be, you know, 3-bed, 5-person, are small, you know, 80 square meters, even on their floor plan. So they've got kind of living kitchen, diner, 1 room, and even on their floor plan, there's only a sofa with 4 seats on it. So I don't know how they kind of make this stuff up really. This is the proposed leisure centre as well. So again, there's a lot of things around how this will be, you know, it'll be a landmark location. I mean, at the moment, the leisure centre is actually quite nicely tucked away in a lot of trees. So I think I've heard from people that it was quite controversial when the leisure centre was put here in the first place 40 years ago, because it being on Metropolitan Open Land, but it's actually not that big size-wise, so it does actually kind of tuck away into the environment. But I think something of this size, that's not going to be the case. And they're actually kind of reorientating it into Ruislip Road East as well. So it's going to be quite a big oppressive building there. And then just before we get into the kind of environmental pieces, I just wanted to talk about, I guess, what they're doing and why they're doing it. And basically, the centre is now, I think next year would hit its 40th birthday. And the council haven't really had, well, they haven't had any sinking fund put in place. So basically, no money put aside to rebuild it or do it or refurbish this. And this is why they've come to the conclusion that actually what they need to do is build that big development on the right-hand side to kind of cross-subsidise this. And what they said a lot as well is what they want to be able to do is take this opportunity to actually build something bigger and better, which sounds great, and to actually look at what they're building. So if we look at kind of what's existing, what's proposed, at a high level, we're getting 4 additional lanes in the 50-metre pool, no extra gym stations, 1 extra studio, parking and so on is the same. We're actually losing 2 football pitches. Skateboard park and playground will be re-provided, so will the BMX track, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But actually, we're not getting anything better at all. And this was all decided 5 years ago in a cabinet meeting. They already kind of predetermined what we were going to have in there. And there were some additional things they talked about which have been de-scoped along the way. So climbing wall was one. I've seen green roof or something that was in there and then disappeared somewhere along the way. I don't know why that came out. And sports halls as well. So, and all of this, they've decided is going to cost, we keep in slightly different figures, but it's going to be in the region of 40 million, which sounds like quite a lot of money. And it is. So we've done quite a lot of research about what other leisure centres, who's getting a better deal, which is basically everyone. And it's very worth making note that these are all projects by the same construction company that have done the estimates for Gurnell. So they can't even say, different company. So this one top here left, this was a refurbishment, £12 million. And actually £12 million is actually what Ealing Council have now put aside for the leisure centre in terms of, and they're saying that's just going to be the fit out cost. And then you start kind of going, I won't go through them all in detail, but this one over here, 37 million. So this is supposedly the same price as what we're having to pay. And it is a crazy state of the art. I mean, they've got so much in there. I've seen an interactive tour of that leisure centre, and Ealing Council are badging ours as, state of the art, etc. And it's just not. So it's a real shame that they're now trying to, because they've got this extortionate cost that we don't quite know how they've come up for it. They then say we don't have enough money, therefore we've got to build all these tower blocks. And they haven't really ever, from all the evidence we've seen, we've never seen any true business case of looking at, going out to tender, getting better quotes. And one of the reasons we can work out that's making it so expensive is because they're building on the current parking car park, they have to put car parking underground. And A, it's very expensive normally. B, you do that on a floodplain, it's even more expensive, no doubt. So I think even just putting 170 car park spaces underground costs about £7 or £8 million, just that. So it's just a completely kind of bonkers, no business case idea. And then now basically we end up suffering the consequences. So this is another familiar theme with Warren Farm, environmental impact assessment. I think we might have been in a slightly better position in a way, because I think they actually did screen for Gurnell. So I guess for those of you who don't know, the screening opinion is something that the developer requests to find out whether they need to go through the full environmental impact assessment process and produce an environmental statement. Now, the problem we have is in this situation, Ealing are kind of judge, jury and executioner. They're the landowner, they're the applicant, they're the local planning authority, and then the council office. So Ealing's the applicant, I guess with the developer, came and said, oh, do we need to do an environmental statement for this? And lo and behold, they said no. Yeah, go figure. So if I go on to the next slide, there's quite a lot of issues with this. This is, at the moment, our team, we're kind of putting together our big kind of assessment and submission document with all the issues in this project. And one of them is around environmental impact assessment. And what they've done is they've actually split out the BMX, which you can now see up in the kind of top left-hand corner. Apologies for the quality, it's from the developer stuff and it's all blown up in here. So although the whole application site for Gurnell is the red line on here, when they did the environmental impact assessment, they didn't, I think this was back in 2018, so I don't know if they've even realised at that point that the BMX park was moving, let alone how big it was going to be. And there's a lot of issues with this project with these two, with the BMX and Gurnell being split in these two separate applications. They never should have been split, and they've been split for tactical reasons, we think. The other point here is that another thing that triggers environmental impact is if a development is going to have a significant urbanising effect, and they'll look at it in isolation. I would argue that 600 units is significantly urbanising alone. They said it has to be 1,000. At that time, they took a 1.5 kilometre diameter and said actually it's this plus Copley, so they got to about 800. But actually since that, the Starving Marvin development has now been approved, the Hoover Building 1. So now we've actually also hit the 1,000 unit trigger. So there's a couple of big issues with this that if they screen today, I'm sure they'd find a different argument not to do environmental impact assessment. So we've been kind of pulling all that together, and there's a lot of cross contamination between these two planning applications. It's a bit like, look over here, don't look over there, and an assessment's being used for Gurnell that's in the BMX one and not in the other, and it's all very confusing. But I'm hoping, we've been looking at them today, so hopefully we've untangled quite a lot of that.
Louise?
Yes?
Can I just check, how much longer do you think you have?
Not too much longer, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yep, okay. So I can go faster. So let's quickly through these then. So part of the site is functional floodplain. So they're going to put in lots of expensive flood mitigations, but it's nature's floodplain, so we don't know how it might disturb that. Also, a lot of this is going to be built on flood zone 3. The bike park here, you can see now how it's going to destroy half the meadow. The red items in here, these are the trees that they know they're going to take down. I'm not sure if I know there are tree protection order trees here. I'm not sure if any of those are likely to be taken out, but I think that may be the case. Something that Phil from Brent River gave me, actually. So you can see at the moment they're doing the kind of the Gurnell to Greenford Greenway works, and they've, I think, dumped a bunch of soil in places they shouldn't have done. It's contravening some of the kind of management of flood management areas. So they're already messing about with stuff there. This is something from the development, from the construction plan. And again, just shows you just how big, from a different view, these towers are going to be there. And again, another one here just shows the big footprint. So it's not just the towers, you've got to think about how much are they digging up in order to actually build it. So that site area is actually enormous. It's quite surprising. I didn't even realize it's going to be that price. All right. So here we go. So yeah, so they call this tree strategy in their document. So strategy is cut down 158 trees, build some tower blocks. So you can see just how many trees they're taking down here. And of course their assessments say low value, etc. So we don't need to worry about that, because they're going to plant some ones that are going to be better according to the assessments. And where the BMX is going to be located, one of the things they're putting there, proposed to put, is some 15-metre lighting masts in the BMX park. So that's those kind of stadium lights that you see at like athletics tracks. That's the specification that I've seen them to use for that. But yet they don't seem to have done a bat assessment in that area of the park, which is handy. So again, there's, from this development, although the planning application will state, negligible impact, there's, 1,800 residents. There's got to be light pollution, noise pollution, air pollution coming from this. They say there isn't going to be, any extra traffic, but there's, no way that can happen. I think no one's ever seen Ruislip Road East this empty. That never happens. So I don't know where they got these pictures from. Another big issue is the sunlight and daylight. These are really shocking. So in that bottom right-hand corner picture, those shadows are going the whole way to that back to the Longfield Meadows. That picture showed you in the first, that photo. You wouldn't be able to take that once these are built, because all their daylight is going to be gone. And I appreciate that last bottom one is actually 9 o'clock on a December morning, but that's when the photo was actually taken. So I appreciate they're going to be long shadows, but that is, that's blocking a lot of the park, basically. So this is interesting. We've spotted a couple of documents, the development being referred to as Eco Park. So we're not sure if this is formal, but we thought it was quite interesting that they haven't used that, because a lot of the developments, they like to give it some shiny name. So it wouldn't surprise me if this goes through, this starts getting bandied around. And then I think this is my last one, Adam. So there's a lot in this kind of box ticking around biodiversity net gain. And from what we've seen of that, it's just rubbish, really. I think that basically it looks like it comes down to, they're going to change some of the grass. And, for all the trees they chop down, they'll put a slightly better quality, or what have they determined to be that, grass in place. And that means they get a biodiversity net gain from all of that, somehow. I don't know how I'm not an expert in any of this, but it doesn't really sound sensible to me. So I can talk about the kind of how you can help stuff after. Shall I unshare? So I should have gone faster through the earlier ones. There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Try that.
Right
Were there any
then.
questions in the chat that I need to answer?
There are a few. I'm wondering if you can, because they are largely asking why the council did certain things and not other things, which
Yeah.
of course you are not Ealing Council, and so
I'm
you
not.
cannot speak from it.
No.
But we can at least get your perspective, maybe.
Do you want to pick which ones you want to ask me?
Yeah,
I can
so
answer them.
well,
Yeah.
Jeff asked a question of what is the financial benefit to the council from this development?
The council, so the position would be that the financial benefit is that they don't have enough money to rebuild or refurbish the leisure centre, and therefore that right hand side of the development will cross fund it. So that's the council position. So and also they will say that the current leisure centre is not making as much money as it could do, and the new one will generate more revenue.
Yes, from a perspective of money. Does anyone else have any questions they would like to have? If you do, please raise your hand. If you've got your camera on, just put your hand up in the window. If not, Marine, what's your question?
I just wanted Louise to just explain that, yes, you know, the council is saying, yes, they are going to build us this magical, beautiful leisure centre. But actually, as Louise just explained, the council is now actually putting forward £12 million anyway. So Louise, can you explain that in a bit more like, that is the official stance of the council, but it's actually nonsense.
Yeah, so I guess their stance is they're putting forward 12 million and the leisure centre costs 40 million roughly. Our stance is it shouldn't, and therefore they're saying we need to build all these towers to cross fund. Our stance is it doesn't cost 40 million to build a new leisure centre. You could probably refurbish it, and therefore you don't need to build those towers there. And plus the fact that I mentioned before is we're not even really getting anything better. So you're going to go through all this, destroy everything, and not have it for 5 years, and it's already under capacity, and it's not going to be any better for anyone.
Hey there. I wonder if I could ask a question following the answer to a previous one, because it seems as though the developer was allowed to get away with valuing the land at zero. Now, anybody knows that in London, the land is the biggest component of housing. I'm sorry if I'm talking about the housing rather than the environment. But it does worry me a lot that a developer is allowed to get away with a blatant abuse of basic economics. If the land is public, surely, had they done this on the market valuation of urban development land, they could at least have done it in a way which is environmentally and socially far, far more effective.
So there is a cross fund coming from the that right hand side of the development, the 400 units. But it's not 100% clear to us how much it is. It's all buried. And I've asked under FOI, can you tell me how much the land is worth and all those kind of things? And you're getting due consideration, and I haven't had it back yet. And then I had to ask again. So they're getting something. So it's not I think a Warren Farm situation where it's being given away free, but we don't know how much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Chris,
Nice question.
Chris had quite a lot to say. Chris, would you like to just say what you put there? That's very interesting.
Oh yeah, hi. I suppose I'm not an expert, but I've just been doing some digging, and as part of our objection, we've just been kind of digging into the various assessments the council has done or has had different companies do, and there's a lot of holes and things, and I think I'm just picking at one with respect to the biodiversity net gain, and it's many of these types of things that I think are missing, and therefore they're kind of ticking the boxes with their typical exercise, but really they're not really understanding the potential impact they're going to cause.
Thanks, Chris. Is there any other? Does anyone else have any other questions? All right.
Sorry, it's always me. What's the what's sort of the status now? So we're going to put in our objections, but what is sort of the time, like what should we be looking out for? How can we help more?
Yep. Okay, so yeah, so the timeline for the objections is 29th of July is the deadline for those. So it'd be great if everyone here can get those in. So I think if you're able to send out stuff after the meeting, I can send you the links. So we've got a page on our website which gives help for that. And we also want people to kind of lobby, you know, the councillors and the council zone. And we've got on our website, you click, it'll pop up an email if your browser supports it, and you can kind of write everything in there and just send it straight off really easy. And then I don't know, they might try and push it through August Planning Committee. That would be tight, but it wouldn't surprise me. If not, it'll be September. And then what we're doing is actually kind of pulling apart of all of this, and then we'll be sending that to various different parties, you know, both government and, you know, political as well. It's not, and the GLA.
Brilliant. Yeah, just to repeat what Louise said, after this, we'll send up a follow-up email where we will send any links that Save Gurnell has got, and we'll put it in an email for you. Louise, potentially, if anyone's interested, would you like to share your slides, perhaps? Don't worry if you don't.
Oh, potentially, I need to work out how to get them downloaded from where I have them.
Fine, then.
But yeah, I'll see if I can get them onto our website.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll get them to you. Yeah.
You had some nice planning pictures there, so I just thought it might be interesting for people.
I have them in an application. I'm not used to doing slides in, so I'm like, oh, how do I get those out of there?
Cool.
Yeah.
As long as there isn't any other questions, I would like to move on to hearing from Hanwell Nature. In this case, we'll be handing over to the lovely Samantha. Samantha, if you'd like to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself to the gathering.
Okay, hold on. Hi, I think I've done it. Have I done it?
Yes, you have.
Great. So hi, I'm Samantha from Hanwell Nature. Thank you for getting us on this. It's always good to share a little bit about what's going on with Warren Farm. I don't know, I'm mindful of time, and I don't know how many people here wanted to hear a little bit about what was proposed before, or if we just want to talk about since legal action and where we are now. What would you think, Adam?
Well, that's so. What was the two options?
To just talk a little bit about what was proposed, the development, what it was proposed, and the actual environmental impact that was actually put through and given planning permission for. Or I could just talk about from where we are now and what's happened recently and where we're going. I can do a little bit of whatever you like.
Well, I think Marianne was quite keen on the first bit, so we'll start there and we can hopefully move on to the second. Thank you.
Okay, so Warren Farm used to be an amenity sports ground, and it ceased being heavily managed, intensively managed, if you like, in terms of the environmental management of the pitches. It was intensely managed up until about 2012. And since those 8 years, that's where the magic has happened in Warren Farm. Since the council stopped maintaining it, it has quite literally rewilded. It's an extraordinary space now. There's a mix of species rich. We've got neutral acid grasslands. We've got about approximately 230 species of grasses and herbs that are providing some extraordinary habitat for a number of UK red listed birds. Some of them are in the highest conservation priority, as they're suffering from about a 50% population decline recently. So it's also a key foraging habitat for species living in the important wildlife corridor that we know as the Brent River Park, which comes all the way from Brent Cross all the way down to Osterley. It's quite an extraordinary piece of environmental real estate. And it's something that many people want to enhance. So we've had a rewilding. I mean, Warren Farm is now a glorious and humble exempling of urban rewilding. It's really something that actually, it's just teeming with nature, and at a time when we need it most. So it was the sports field. It's been rewilded. During that time of rewilding, some wonderful people were taking a lot of different legal actions. The Save Warren Farm team, a couple of members I can see from that are online with us today, a series of legal actions were taken. One of the things that was most disturbing, I think, was apart from the 550 parking spaces and in an area with no public transport links whatsoever, one of the major deep concerns was the delivery of up to 5 meters height in places, so 15 foot for the oldies, or should I say that, 15 foot high. And this was going to be of 180,000 cubic meters of landfill. And the substance of this landfill was going to be waste, so there's a variety of number of waste categories that could be brought in, including chemically processed waste, evacuated soil from contaminated sites, and household waste, and cemetery waste. The mind boggles. That details all on the website, Queen's website. And this. I don't know where they are, darling. I don't know where they are. Oh, yeah, I'm getting some feedback.
Katharina Balls, can you please mute your account, please? Thank you.
That was me.
Thank you.
Well done, Louise. And yes, so this was going to be a 10-month landfill program, so 150 lorry loads per working day. Just to give you an idea of what that would actually be, that would have looked like 26,000 truck movements, an astonishing 1,260,000 miles travelled, consuming 300,000 litres of diesel fuel, expelling 960 tonnes of CO2 emissions, and all to create a gated emporium that would exclude the public. The dust suppressant spraying, obviously, to ameliorate the airborne detritus that would be coming over key receptor sites. We've got Ealing Hospital and Meadow House Hospice and St Mark's School. They're all key receptor sites locally, as well as the already under duress, the residents of Southall, suffering only 0.7 miles away with the Southall Gasworks. So that was really what we were looking at. And what we were facing, and so it was decided that there would be the need for a legal action to be taken, and delightfully, Justice Elizabeth Lang on the 2nd of April confirmed that the case against Ealing Council was sufficient, had sufficient merit, and permission was granted to proceed towards judicial review. This was very exciting. And it means that the judge saw clearly that there was a strong and arguable case, and that 2 to 3 days would be allowed to be heard in 2 to 3 days. So then followed the announcement that QPR were pulling out, and that's where we are today. That they no longer wished to deal with to take the site and develop it, and then we've got the announcement by Ealing Council that they still intend to develop the site, destroy the biodiversity, and create football pitches on it. I think the point's been slightly missed here. We are told that the Mayor's environmental strategy hinges on biodiversity gain, and at a time of this climate emergency, it makes no sense that Warren Farm shouldn't play its part in providing what we estimate would be a 45% biodiversity gain for the borough. And again, when you think about during the lockdown, the local green spaces have hurtled up the agenda as a political issue at the moment since the lockdown. A lot of people now truly value and can see the benefits of it. There was an interesting with data from the Office of National Statistics, it shows that 1 in every 8 households don't have access to their own gardens. And so taking daily exercise in nearby green spaces, it became a lifeline for so many people. And I think if the government is serious about learning the lessons that are coming out of this pandemic, it must it must use the up-and-coming planning reforms to protect some of these precious spaces and recognise their value. They're now talking about natural health services, you know, that the green assets that these provide. So we're looking to just continue to lobby the council to create awareness, to actually decide what the future of Warren Farm will be in its new emerging local plan campaign, to educate. I mean, it seems bizarre that, I mean, you would have to have been living under a stone to understand that we're in a climate emergency. And another quite interesting, what do you call it, a survey, sorry, I beg your pardon, by CPRE, oh my gosh, I always forget them, the Protection of Rural England. They did a fantastic poll, and it showed that 63% of people believed in protecting and enhancing green spaces. The last thing I would say is that Warren Farm was also voted, quite bizarrely, in the top 4 best loved open green spaces in London. I mean, that is just extraordinary. And that they were placed in the top 20% nationally in the whole of England, and it received a much loved status. So the thing is that people like the space. We have new imperatives coming out of COVID. I think we all understand our health and how important it is that the part that green open spaces play, not just manicured lawns with rose bushes and sort of very structured parks, but I think people really enjoy the mental freedom to walk into something that's just been designed by nature. I think it has a really strong impact, rather than sort of seeing straight lines and benches, and we've got enough of those parks in Ealing. So that's what the idea is to actually empower the local community, to put a structured campaign together and to lobby Ealing to wake up. If anyone can tell me why Ealing Council are not aware of the need to protect biodiversity, answers on a postcard, please. Right. Oh, there's questions. Am I supposed to be answering these?
No, don't worry about that. You carry, you do. If you've got any more, we can get into answering some questions now if you'd like. If not, if you've got any more, like how can maybe people get involved with Warren Farm, you know, or support it?
Yeah. Well, how do people get involved in it now? So it's quite important. You can get in touch via our website. So that's www.hanwellnature.com. It says what it does on the tin. And there's a contact page, or you can email me, Samantha, at hanwellnature.com. And we can let you know what's rolling out and where we are with the stage of things. This is going to be a very slow burn. It's not something that's going to happen immediately. There are a lot of different stakeholders and community groups that would be able, user groups that would very much be able and would like to play into whatever ideas might emerge as a new vision. But first of all, we need to deal with the council and find out if they are open to actually entertaining something that is a biodiversity gain rather than. So at the moment, there's not a lot that people can get involved in, although we would love to hear from you. If you would like to help input into that, if you would like to help be part of the lobbying, we're really interested in ideas at the moment and gathering people's ideas. So it's a good time to get involved, but we haven't got the calls to action just yet, but that will be coming soon.
Brilliant, thank you.
I'd like to suggest something in order to help Warren Farm, is that if more people start using it and it becomes seen as a park rather than land that they can get rid of, maybe that will put more pressure on Ealing. I see, again, Chris has put loads of stuff down the side, and this is something that is, as a Green Party, we were challenging, was Ealing Council's climate plan, basically, which has great stuff in it, but no real plan as to how they're going to implement all this stuff. And yes, keeping large areas of green space is what we need, which needs to be the first point, really, in their plan, because one of the other things I'm just going to bring up briefly is that they've been cutting down trees in cemeteries as well around Ealing. So if they continue to just cut things down, how are they fighting the climate crisis? So that's some pressure that we can put on them. Nick F?
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of points. What we're seeing here, I think, with both of these schemes and others, is a theme. Firstly, building on open green land. Secondly, not wanting to do an environmental impact assessment. And then thirdly, doing very dodgy assessments of the environmental value. So what I think we probably all need to do, because most of us are concerned with multiple projects, not just one of them, is see whether we can remember to pursue these as issues in their own right and not just in the context of one development. I don't know how we do that. I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I think it's something we just sort of need to bear in mind. Maybe various of us need to sort of work away at particular aspects, because those are going to keep coming back in future proposals for in other places.
Thank you, Nick. If anyone else has a question, either speak or raise your hand and make yourself known. Ryan.
Sorry, after you. I have one question. And
go for it, Jeff.
To what extent you are working with other groups with similar concerns and interests, such as Save Ealing Centre, Stop the Towers, Ealing Transition, all of which I'm sure would support the points you're trying to make. And obviously, the more groups that work together, the more chance there is of success.
If I can respond to that, this is one of the reasons that we are doing this, in order to start connecting people, because it has become, in my mind, certainly the people against Ealing Council, because whatever objections people put up, they don't listen to them. And so basically, rather than having all these little groups, we need to be one group. So Ealing residents against Ealing Council.
I think, that's what's so great about that protest we had in February. I think it was about 2 weeks before lockdown. I know some of you were there, and that's what we'd. I think myself and some others, we'd try to start to form this and get that going. It's such a shame the timing of all this has happened now. Because within I've had so many people asking, can we do another protest? I'm just like, no, we can't now. It's very difficult.
Sam, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I mean, in terms of all the different potential community user groups, potential interested stakeholders, we would want to be contacting everybody with some really simple steps that people can channel into, or, take more of an interest, or actually do more research, or combine in with the general effort. So the thing is that the land really does, it really does require a massive groundswell from a very organised, massive groundswell that really is putting, these green spaces and demanding a biodiversity gain for the borough. It's the problem that we've got here, which it seems to be. I mean, we hear endlessly from the mayor. We hear endlessly. Julian Bell was actually on the Mayor's Green Task Force and talks quite eloquently about that planning decisions need to take, that how councils have got a responsibility to make sure that they're protecting things. We still end up time and time again with the environment and the requirements being a tick box, and that actually there isn't actually anybody that I can tell in the council whose responsibility and speciality is environment. And that actually, whilst the mayor is waxing lyrical that we are going to be London's first national city park, and we're all in biodiversity and everybody's really into it, when it comes down to it, there are no statutory teeth. There is nothing that anybody can go to, ask our environmental borough specialist, how does this sit in with the mayor's plans? Are we aligning with the mayor's plans? And so therefore, as Nick very rightly said, we end up with a very, very poor ecological appraisal of land that really doesn't represent the true biodiversity interest there. It's something that they're happy to let go with minor mitigations. Mitigation seems to be the panacea for all environmental damage these days. I mean, they're going to be so busy mitigating, they're going to create damage from their mitigation. But I think this is the problem, and it's a collective one. And I think the system is broken when you have one voice saying, yes, we're going to do this, but no plans or system to implement it.
Thank you. Louise, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add about the green spaces. So something we discovered when we've been doing our digging around Gurnell is they did this alternative sites assessment where they looked to see where else could they build those flats. And it's quite worrying because what they do is basically look at every single site they own on what they could build on and how much they could build there. And it's on the GLA website under their disclosure log. I do get the link for it, but it's really what I mean. Literally every single green space. I think even Dean Gardens, right? They said they could put 600 flats there. That would be the capacity.
Every single green space they want to put something.
Thank you, Louise. Marianne, do you still have a point you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Sam. So what is, just so we're really clear, what is the status now with Warren Farm? Like, is it saved or?
Not at all. There's no such thing as saved. It's now, I think we're in a 6 to 8 month long campaign with a large amount of manpower hours and resources connecting to massive amount to create a huge groundswell to completely try to change Julian Bell's mind about the future of Warren Farm, to include it in the emerging local plan. So in answer to your question, no, it's not saved at all. There is no such thing, and right now that has to be, we have to collectively come together and make these arguments. So that's where we're at. Sadly not saved. I did ask Julian Bell if he would let me have Warren Farm for a peppercorn a year for my birthday, but he hasn't got back to me.
Sorry, Mina, I just want to check. Nick, do you still have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, well, it was just a thought. I think Louise said we couldn't have some sort of demonstration or event. I think you can have socially distanced events, because if I've got it right, they were planning one for NHS Save Ealing Hospital. They were going to have a public event. So that would be one to watch, because if they can do it, we certainly can as well. And it could actually be quite impressive, because if you have to spread people out, they cover a bigger area and it looks better in some ways.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, there is a NHS Save NHS protest happening this weekend, I believe on Saturday. Mina.
I wanted to check with Sam, is there a figure that they would sell Warren Farm for? Because there was a group in Yorkshire, I don't know if you heard about it, but they had a piece of land that the council there were going to build a road through, and so, because they protested, things fell apart and then it didn't happen and the land came up for sale again. And they all got together, and it's not just a handful of them, but people throughout the area got together, crowdsourced the money, and they bought the land.
I mean, I think if it ever came onto the open market, or even was muted, or even if Ealing Council said, oh, you wretched environmentalists, oh, we'll give you the damn land, go and stop protesting. Here you are, go and do something fabulous with it. Even if it was being offered, which it firmly is not. Yes, absolutely. I think that would be a fantastic idea, and I'm sure there'd be a lot of take up on that. But it's not being offered right now. Ealing, in their statement, are quite clear that they, and of course these things can change, but at the moment they're quite clear that the direction they're heading in is that they will be destroying the biodiversity there as we have it now, and putting football pitches down in some kind of maybe sponsored or using the name of QPR or some kind of iteration. And just speaking back to Myron's comment, that will be the next iteration of what will have to be, you know, and fought against. I don't see the difference between destroying the biodiversity there in favour of QPR football pitches, or destroying the biodiversity there in favour of, you know, in council football pitches. It really just doesn't seem any difference at all to me. And I'm amazed that after I think 8 years of 3 judicial reviews now, and public inquiry on national park, on the public paths, because they were looking to have them adopted into the definitive map, and I think a couple of asset of community value applications. 9 years. Julian Bell still, well, the council still doesn't understand that what the people want, what the Ealing want is green spaces. So it's interesting times.
Does anyone else have a question? Otherwise, we wondered if people wanted to break out into groups to discuss the issue that they were more interested in, or are you happier all together?
I don't even know how to break out.
Don't worry, Sam. Well, we would deal with that.
Oh.
Yeah, we would do that. So
I didn't even know this existed.
Yes.
But I was locked down.
So if people are interested in one issue and not the other, we could do that if you have further questions. If not, we can stay together and continue discussing, or if everyone thinks they've had the answers they need, then we're also happy to finish off now. So I'll let you lead.
Yeah, so if anyone's got any other queries, either for Sam or Louise, please speak up now.
Thanks very much indeed. I've enjoyed the discussion and presentation very much indeed. I'm going to leave the meeting now, but I'd like to wish you every success, and I'd be very happy to keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My email
Please go and
address
object.
I certainly am objecting, and I'm contacting the MP, Rupa Huck.
Jeff, before you go,
yeah.
Before you go, I don't know if you're aware of the issue in Southall, where people are living next to toxic land that's being built on, and people are getting very sick. And the group that are campaigning there wrote an open letter to Julian Bell, and Julian Bell and Virendra Sharma, their MP, and Omkar Sahota, who is our London Assembly member, have agreed to meet them. That is on the 16th of July. I think we'll put the details on our website, probably on the Ealing Green Party website, if you'd like to join in with that. Oh, I think he's gone.
No, I'm still here. But
oh, are you there? Oh, there you are, yes.
I would be very interested in that, and I'm also planning to write emails to the 3 MPs, James Murray, Rupa Huck, who I know is very supportive, and also Virendra Sharma, who we know well. And what amazes me and depresses and makes me very angry is the fact that we've got 3 Labour members of Parliament, we've got a Labour council, and they seem to be behaving with as much irresponsibility as market-driven, profit-obsessed Tory government councils. And I just find that unconscionable and extremely offensive. And if Labour wants to get into power nationally, they need, first of all, to listen to local people. They need to be responding to social needs and protecting the environment and addressing the climate crisis. And they seem to be doing absolutely the very opposite. And I'll be writing to my MPs and to Rupa Huck, who I know is supportive, and to the other 2, and a copy to Julian Bell, and ask them what the hell they're doing, messing up the council, the whole borough, at a time when they should be opposing these obsessive Tory policies.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to hear from you.
Okay. I'll be leaving now, but thanks for the best wishes. I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thanks, Jeff.
For joining us.
Nick, if you wouldn't mind, as you've had the chance to speak, I would just like to pass it over to Caroline.
Lynn.
Carolyn, sorry.
I'm forgetting it's me.
Oh,
I
you're
was
in
looking at all
trouble.
the labels. I just one of the listening to what's been said with respect to the environment. I think one of the gaps that we've got in terms of looking at it from communications and persuading people is we don't have anything that's written that says in a very punchy, one side of A4 bullet pointy way, the value of biodiversity, the value of acid grasslands, the value of neutral grasslands, because they don't. I mean, the councillors, most of them are thick as shit anyway. Sorry, certainly not educated and don't know that. And there's an awful lot of people we're talking to who really need to have it explained properly. I'll never forget being at a ward meeting when the whole battle about the skate park was going on, when we were trying to get it not put into Elthorne Park. Someone said, hasn't anyone thought of putting it on that wasteland that's opposite Ealing Hospital? Because they perceive a field of grass that whatever we know is biodiversity, and it's absolutely essential to manage it as a meadow, they were perceiving Brent Meadow as wasteland. And I've heard people like Virendra Sharma say that Warren Farm is basically wasteland, because if it doesn't have industry on it and if it doesn't have housing on it, then it's not being used, or it's not growing food, then it's not being used. They don't understand it. So we kind of need, under the headings of the things that we're talking about, biodiversity, acid grassland, neutral grassland, what this actually means. And also, so many people really don't understand about what the problem is if we interrupt bats' lifestyles, and what the damage is to us as individuals and us as community if that happens. And I find it, I come from my background is biology, and I find it difficult to explain to them, because to me it's just so stupid to say that Warren Farm as it is now is wasteland, or Brent Meadow is wasteland. But people perceive it that way, and unless we can actually say, no, this is what the value is, it's a bit difficult. And I think it would help us a lot when we come to put in our objections for Gurnell, and when it comes to the next steps for Warren Farm, because we're still in a difficult situation with Warren Farm, and we are going to have to prevent them from mowing the whole lot down, and sort of reducing the biodiversity again. Sorry to ramble there. We could do it. So it's a case of who gets to write that. And of course, Phil has sent me through today some really good, important points with respect to MOL and Gurnell specifically. We kind of almost need to have a briefing sheet that had, that we can all use on all of our MOL damage planning applications. That is there, and it's truth, and it's backed up. I mean, he'd referenced everything with the planning references. We kind of now need to have biological references in there as well.
Yeah,
it's not planning.
I think you're right, Claire. And this thing about the bats as well, because we've had to read this bat roost assessment. I haven't got a clue, but even when you look through, you can find flaws. I think that's having those kind of like expert witnesses, because it's easier to Chris went through the transport assessment. Okay, we understand cars, we understand parking, so it's easier to kind of pull it apart, because I don't think I've looked at any single assessment and everything's got flaws in their methodology. They move goalposts. But in the environmental ones, without an expert, it's very difficult for a layperson to work out what have they done wrong. What can you pin on them, basically?
Yeah, one of the things that Phil has very kindly provided us with the picture showing the dumped soil on the meadow. I mean, you know, I know it's bad, but I need to know exactly why it's bad, what that will, the impact that that will have had. And it will have had you know, an impact on reducing biodiversity. It will have confused the hell out of some bats. Why is it a problem to confuse bats? You know, why should we not be all this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's true. So we need to get a leaflet, something in very simple language, basically, that everybody will understand. Pat's put on the comments, how's the Corporation of London managed to conserve Epping Forest and Burnham beaches for so long and so successfully? Could their strategy be applied to Warren Farm? Does anybody know?
Something to look into.
I don't know what their strategy is.
I think any strategy can be put towards Warren Farm if there's the appetite.
Marine and Nick, so you had fingers up. Do you still have points you'd like to? Oh, sorry, Sam, I'm cutting you off. Oh, bit of pause.
Don't worry. I think the main point is that anything can be achieved if there is an appetite at the council and the support to do it. There are enough people and enough resources to help do that at virtually no cost to the council, albeit maybe, you know, there are lots of different ideas that people can do, but if there is no appetite and there's a focused, blinkered approach, then we need to change that mindset first, and then all things are possible.
True.
Thank you, Sam. I'm just going to check in if Marine or Nick still have your points you'd like to raise.
Just really quickly, that I was in Wormwood Scrubs the other day, and which, by the way, if you've never been there, I've never been there, and it's just stunning.
Please
and
tell me you were just a visitor.
Yeah, no, not the prison.
The Scrubs, she means.
The actual
Scrubs.
They let me go. Yeah. So, but what you're saying, Carolyn, is so true. And also, like, so now apparently they want to put in a pond with a bridge, and they want to landscape it. They want to do all this landscaping. And I think it's because they just genuinely don't get it. And I think that is, I feel like that's really at the heart of the problem. I mean, as well as they're greedy and just generally nasty people. But I think also a lot of people just really don't get how it works. So I think that's a really interesting one. I'd be quite keen to start doing some little like videos and stuff. I think leaflets are good to be handing those out, but also maybe some online stuff that we can put on social media and things like that.
I mean, it'd be really good if we started off with the you know, the key points written in a briefing document, and then did really punchy videos. And really punchy videos that are, you know, maximum 3 minutes long. Is a great way to actually get the information across to people who don't read.
On the Hanwell nature.com website, on one of the blogs, an interesting, we like the interesting, why we need biodiversity gain in Ealing, and that it's broken down into really bite-sized chunks. I don't know if that might go, if that was what you were thinking. It's basically what the main benefits are. I don't know if you want to have a look at that, Carolyn. Perhaps you could give us some feedback if you think that kind of goes any way towards breaking this down into multiple chunks.
It probably would help, but at the moment it's sort of buried on your website, which is not outwardly promoted very much, and we definitely need to be using it for the Gurnell BMX planning application. I didn't know it was there for that. So yeah, as the core data, that we'll have a look at it and see what we can do.
I don't know if they even did for the BMX. Phil and Nick will know. Did they even do a biodiversity calculation for the BMX site?
Yeah, I think they did.
Okay.
I think they did. Phil Alford, who's not here at this meeting, knows a lot about that.
Okay. Because I know on the Gurnell one, they like to count, you know, pot plants on a 6th-floor roof garden.
I didn't spot the biodiversity calculation for the BMX park. I was looking for that today.
I can't imagine you're going to destroy half the SINC. I mean, what are you going to, and then basically it's all paved and you're going to have a gain.
Well, this is the problem. And for the BMX park, they've used the ecological assessment that was done in 2018 for Gurnell as part of the pre-app assessment for a completely different plan. So, you know, they've kind of muddled things a bit. So it doesn't clearly say, you know, what the problems are and what the net loss is. And equally, the Gurnell one doesn't talk about the BMX side. So it's kind of they're kind of hiding behind, you know, these assessments a bit.
The worrying thing, just looking, because I had to look at the application for the Manor Road Tower, and they're describing some of the balconies as winter gardens. Whilst that's sometimes apparently the descriptor they use for the internal balconies, which basically prevent you from getting any kind of sunlight at all. You know, they're calling more than just the built-in inset balconies winter gardens. I guess it's a way of trying to say, look how much biodiversity we have generated here. 18 floors with winter gardens.
Are you serious? They're counting that?
There's really not much you can say, but yeah, they're describing them as that. I don't think they've needed to worry because of the site they're building on. They're not on MOL and so on, so they've not had to talk about biodiversity gain or anything. But you know, if it becomes a pattern that balconies become described as winter gardens, then you can bet your bottom dollar they'll be counting those in. I mean, they should never have been. It's only in the last since the Boris plan came through. I can't even remember. Was Boris the first mayor? There was someone before him. Ken.
That's it, Ken. Yes.
The plan that Ken had wouldn't allow balconies to be included as amenity space, but there was a mega typo in Boris's plan, apparently, which allowed balconies to become counted as amenity space, and it's now sort of in stone. So it probably won't be long before pot plants on balconies do count as increased biodiversity, but I'm just being a bit cynical there and not very helpful.
Format on a dress as well. The depiction of flowers on a dress will also count as biodiversity. Okay. All right. Off. Or a
Brian's losing the plot.
That happened a long time ago.
Ryan's point was interesting about the kind of these manicured and pathways and things, because actually in the Gurnell application they're saying we're making it better because we're putting all those things in.
Have to watch them again because I mean, at least with Gurnell it's not too bad. When we come to other planning applications, they were talking on the Two Towers one that's not Manor Road, the one that's on the corner of Hastings Road. They were with great enthusiasm and excitement actually covering mounds of earth with astroturf and sort of describing this as hugely excellent. So you know, just really got to find a way of saying, look, you know, this is really
I've got a quick question. Is there anyone on the planning committee that we know has an environmental bent or interest, or, you know,
the only one with any kind of environmental interest, and he would generally support it, although I think he did work for I think he did some work, if I remember rightly, for QPR or whatever, is Jonathan Ball. There's absolutely nobody else who's got any kind of, I mean, Nigel Sumner is really pro street trees and everything and conservation areas within his own patch. But when it comes to having proper green credentials, I don't think he has them. So really, and certainly the vast majority of the councillors that are Labour councillors, you know, I don't think you'd be able to count biology O level between them.
That's that.
We've got a, sorry, I was just going to say, we've got an action point really, which is to try and go away and get a leaflet, in very simple language, and also to try and make some little videos. So anyone that's interested in doing that, please let us know if they want to help, because obviously we'll do that. But if anybody wants to get involved with that, do let us know. Marina, did you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to find it now. There is a councillor who actually used to work for, I think, WWF or something like that.
Yeah, that's Alex Stafford, but he's now become an MP.
Oh.
Left.
Mm.
But he was also just shocking, like, just, yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so that was disappointing. I was quite excited about him and then actually met him and was disappointed.
He's not as good as he looks on paper.
Seriously, the only person who makes any kind of effort at all towards the green side of things is Jonathan Ball.
Yeah, probably
Nick,
right.
do you have a point?
Yeah, it was just a very general one, which is probably appropriate at the end of the meeting. We've had people from various campaigns getting together and identifying a lot of issues in common that we're all interested in, both for our own campaigns and for future ones that no doubt will happen. We probably need to just sort of draw together the questions and the unanswered issues and work out any next steps, because we've had a good group of people here, but we want to keep this momentum. Are we going to try and draw together what's been discussed and concluded here, and also make sure that all the people who were in this meeting remain in contact by some means or other? It may be they can all be in contact via the individual campaigns, but we ought to just make sure we've, in a sense, captured everybody so they can stay in the loop. I'm just wondering if the conveners of this meeting are sort of prepared to sort of, in a sense, have a think about how we do that.
Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Yeah, that's a wonderful point. I was thinking up how we could potentially link everyone together. I will put some ideas together and send it around and let everyone know a way to join in and continue this conversation, continue the work, and combine our efforts.
Great.
In some shape or form.
Should we bring it to a close then? Does anyone
Certainly.
have anything they'd like to say before we wind up? No?
Just quickly, I guess I'll send some stuff to Adam. So if we can get everyone to object to the two applications, so the Gurnell one and the BMX one, and anyone in your household can object. Tell your friends, family, everyone. I can't remember how many BMX at now. I think Gurnell are at about 550 at the moment, I think.
Cool. Thank you, Louise. Yep. Any links that these campaigns will be going out by a follow-up email, and hopefully in that email we'll have a way so that all of you can join together, communicate, and get together and help save our green spaces.
I think we all know each other anyway.
I don't know all these other people.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's funny.
No, there's quite a few I don't know. Before we finish up then, our next event, I think, Adam, you wanted to do Citizens Assembly, didn't you? Are we going to do that in 2 weeks' time, or?
I was going to open it up for we could actually, that might be a good one, I was opening it more of a talk, more of a discussion place, so where we could potentially break into small groups and just get to a root of a topic. Now, we could potentially bring this and the whole organising, protecting green spaces in Ealing to that meeting, so that everyone can come together, form into groups on particular topics, and try and get some action plans going. Let's have a chat about this offline maybe, and try and get some ideas.
Okay.
That's all right.
Just before we go though, we are hoping to have the next one on the 1st of August, or the first Wednesday in August. And we're going to have the cash people, as well as a guy that has been monitoring the air pollution in Southall, and he has monitors in other parts of London as well. So that'll be our next topic, and hopefully you'll join us then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Or Mina, can you stay on?
Okay.
Brian, do you want us to leave you with the cat?
Yes. Oh, Chris's cat is.
I've currently got 5 cats in my house.
What?
How many we actually got on the Zoom meeting? I think we've got at least 3.
Definitely,
Mine's
definitely
downstairs
2.
somewhere.
See if I can get you a kitten.
Oh, can you? This would be great. We should just do this.
All right then. Next discussion is a cat. It's a cat night.
Oh, it's nice and smelly in here.
Yeah. Are you showing us your kittens for sale? So you've got kittens.
Oh, I can't see any right now. But...
Oh, they've escaped.
Oh, that would have been such a nice way.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
there's one.
somebody over there.
That would have been so cool to end the meeting on a little fluffy note.
There is. There's definitely someone under that sofa.
Right, we'll remember that for next time.
Oh,
Finish
we've
on
lost
a
ours.
Cats, like dealing with Ealing Council and the environmental issues.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
See
you,
you
Sam.
very much.
Thank you very much for organising it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Right. Hang on. Are you staying, Phil?
Oh, I think he's frozen.
Okay, fine. It was more just to make sure that the setting is that it's recording on someone's. It will record the file onto your computer.
Okay.
Because you started it. There we go. Because you started it, it's gonna, after we finish, it's gonna save it down onto your computer.
Yeah.
If you can then upload that somewhere, maybe a Google Drive.
Okay. Or will it go onto Google Drive? Or
Yeah. I put gigabytes. I put gigabyte files on there. If you like, I can send you a link to a folder where you can just upload it to there if you like.
Okay.
That's easy because I've got plenty of storage.
Yeah.
I will edit it down. Just to trim maybe the beginning bits of the end bits, like this bit, and then try and get it onto YouTube tomorrow. And I'll reach out to Sam and Louise to say, what do you want any text put in underneath the vid?
We should also have it on our website, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Good point. Really good point.
But I thought that went well.
I thought that went really well. And the fact that we had a complaint that, that there wasn't enough spaces.
But then people didn't.
It's always going to be like that. No matter what, free event, you're going to get, I think, a third or a quarter dropout.
Because we had 27 at the highest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think next time we can open it up to more. I think that would be wise. I think maybe put it up to 60.
Yes.
But let's chat about it in tomorrow's meeting.
Okay.
One thing that, if you're up for it, would you potentially be doing, because I think if we put the video, it would be good to put just a really short description of what it happens. If you're happy to pen something, it doesn't have to be long, 500 words.
Like just to explain what it's about, basically.
Just to give a little bit more context. And again, we can then put links to Hanwell and Gurnell on there as well.
Sure.
Cool. Right.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mina.
Good evening.
Yeah, that was really good. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.